Hello, everyone, and welcome to Delivered. My name is Georges. I'm the managing director from Your Majesty, the design company that's part of Infinum, coming from you live from a Uber on my way from the Amsterdam airport to my studio. The reason why I'm calling in from the car is that it was a big car accident on the road, and the downside of doing things in the real world is that you need to prepare for the real world. And in this case, luck was not on my side, so I'm starting this live show from the car, and will hopefully be in the studio very soon. But anyway, we should get to it. Today, my guest is Konstantin Gavrikov. He's the senior director of digital products at Decathlon, and he has been doing some really cool thinking about the rise of AI agents and what it means for us as designers. So I'm super excited to talk to him about this. Let's bring him in. What's up, Konstantin?
Hey, all good here, all good. Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot for having me. And finally, enough, I'm actually comfortably sitting here in Georgia's studio, ready to have an amazing chat and looking forward to this. And I have to say, kudos to the team. They have prepared everything months in advance. We had these discussions, kind of like, and everything was outlined like to the minute. And yet, we still have, of course, like the hiccup, like at the very last moment. So
You can plan for the worst and hope for the best. That's what it's about. I mean, that's about delivering things, right? So I think, given my situation, we should get into it and let you talk as much as possible. So, for those people that are not yet familiar with you and your work, can you tell us, give us the introduction to Konstantin, where you started your career and how you ended up in the position that you are in now?
sure. Let me try and give you some kind of milestones because like I've been in design and my career been quite a long one already for probably more than 23 years. But from the very beginning, somehow I was really interested in computer science combined with doodling in my notebooks at school. And somehow kind of like I knew that I want to be a designer. But then when the internet properly arrived, that was an eye-opening moment for me when I said to myself, like, I want my life to be about it. So another highlight was I'm originally from Ukraine, but I've been living in Amsterdam for the last 19 years. Was when I moved over and I had a chance to build a team for Tommy Hilfiger to help them work on their TommyHilfiger.com, and that was a story for a couple of years. Why I mentioned this particular one is that was the moment when, as a designer, I met as well my passion, which is e-commerce, and that's an amazing journey because it always starts way before you go to any dot coms or the apps, and it finishes with a real product in your hands, kind of like on your body, be it a garment or a footwear and so on. And I loved it so much and the complexity of it that I stuck around in the same industry. So during times of Tommy, like I helped as well with rolling out some mobile apps of Calvin Klein, and then I moved to fast fashion, which is bestseller. And the last couple of years, a while already, I shifted to sports, and I've been with Intersport, Adidas, and right now Decathlon. For those that do not know what it is, it's actually the largest sports goods retailer in the world.
I know that's pretty. I
Yeah,
just learned about that a couple of weeks ago. That's incredible.
but besides all of that, I'm the tech enthusiast, and I'm trying to stay on top of the things in terms of the emerging trends, and spending quite a lot of my time trying to connect the dots, look at the emerging trends and what is happening like in our industry, and translating into the division, like so what the world will look like for our brands, but also kind of for ourselves, like a couple of years from now, or as far as we can see in terms of the innovation horizon as well.
Thank you for the intro, Konstantin. So the reason I wanted to bring you on to Delivered is because you wrote a series of great articles, three critical shifts, redefining digital industries, the rise of autonomous agents, hyper-personalization, and Gen UI, and also natural user interfaces. So which is, it touches on a lot of things that I've been thinking about and also what we come across, like speaking to clients as well. But I wanted to ask, like, what compelled you to write this? Because it's must have been quite a lot of work to get into.
Yeah,
How did it come about?
thanks, and I appreciate that you found the articles actually interesting. Frankly, it's been boiling in my head like for quite a while, and right now we all talk about AI and we talk about the practical, application of it. But even a half a year ago, I was feeling quite lonely in my head. You would have a little bubble where you can talk to the likes of yourself, for instance, but we were still trying out different tools and figuring out, like, hey, how do we bring this news to the rest of our companies, to our teams, and as well, like, what will my future look like? So I had an amazing happening to me earlier this year. My son was born, and I was on paternity leave. So for a month, my hands
Congratulations.
were full. Thanks. But my brain was not challenged with my day-to-day stuff at work, and this is exactly when, during all those sleepless nights, these articles came to fruition. I started to try answering the questions that I had and put it on paper. That also helps me, like with anxiety. Oh yeah, like what will my role look like? What my team is going to be doing like a couple of years from now? And this is exactly the result you could see right now in these articles.
Ah, that's very cool. Okay, so that's a very productive use of the sleepless baby nights. Well done. Um,
Thanks.
So the articles is like, I want to get into a little bit. We're going to talk about a lot of the topics in there,
Yeah.
and I think one thing you talk about is mobile first design, and like how um, that has been kind of like the gold standard for a long time. But as we move into now this next generation of the web, is mobile first design still relevant?
Frankly, it's a good question, and I'm contemplating between giving you a mad scientist version of, hey, Eka, like this and that is going to happen like within a
You be
couple of
yourself. This is really
years,
good.
or a bit more, grounded version. Frankly, okay, let's go with the mad scientist version.
Yes.
We are right now like talking about mobile first, which implies that we will actually have the mobile still in our hands, and we will have the .coms, so something like on the internet or the apps like to go to. But in reality, with the introduction of Gen AI and agents, the entire paradigm is shifting. So sooner or later, and we will have a transition period as well, we will arrive to a different destination, in terms of how do we interact with brands, how do we interact with information, like how are we as well solving the needs and the pains that we have as customers or as users or as just human beings. And that shift has already started dramatically with the introduction of LLMs, and we're chatting, which is already way more natural than going for interaction with the graphical user interfaces, for instance. But in reality, the response is not there yet. So right now, we're just making horses faster, and we're trying to figure out how to be there as brands, for instance, like when the bots are visiting.
Yeah.
But in reality, the biggest shift from mobile first to more like personalized first is going to happen when two things are going to fall into place. One, the adoption is going to be much higher on the level of the use of Gen AI as personal assistants. And with that adoption, the assistants are going to be trained much more on who you are, Georgios, or who I am, for
Yeah.
instance. Like, so what I ate yesterday, or when was my last vacation trip, or what kind of training do I prefer? With that information, they would be equipped to tailor the experience much more to me. And this is where that hyper personalization is going to kick in. But the other pillar for this to happen is that the data should be available, and ideally should be available in a more systematic way than what we have right now. And
Are
by
you
this data,
referring
I
to the
mean,
user data then, so that people are sharing, or what type of data is it that you're referring to?
here I'm referring to the brand, the
Yeah,
companies,
okay,
like
gotcha.
data, the data that's available for us to explore. Right now, we are consuming it either through the APIs, but this is not human way, or through the interfaces. But in reality, like there is no need for us like to be going clicking on different buttons and figuring out like what screen to go for, kind of like, and what to do at this particular screen. If I just need to have an answer to my question, or for instance, like I need guidance, or I need to even purchase something.
Yeah. So what you talk about personalization, and like hyper personalization that this
Mhm.
leads to, if users are willing to, I guess, share some of their personal data, they can get hyper personalization in return, so to speak. Um, what what's an example of that? If I would go and order shoes in a hyper personalized
Mhm.
store, what would that look like?
Um, I would say there will be still kind of like tiers, and you don't need to give up everything about yourself if you don't want to. Kind of like, so tier one would be personalization based on, for instance, like your actions. So AI, the way it works right now, it's all about the pattern recognition, right? So how our experience with the website or the app is different. Like, so after a couple of clicks, you kind of convey a pattern, and AI recognizing like and predicting like what will be the step 4, step 5, and so on. So this is the bottom layer of personalization, and can try to respond not even knowing like who you are. Much higher one would be you logged in, we have your purchasing history, for instance, like we know something about you, and we try to adjust the entire flow already to you. So for instance, we know that you have been purchasing for quite a while running shoes, as you mentioned, right? And we know that you're an avid runner, and you understand like what is your style, kind of like what are you going to be using it for, like a marathon or just a casual run or something like that. And we can save you a lot of time by just giving you the right products in front of your face, and also giving you the right information about these products. But the hyper personalization is going to hit, for instance, like if you indeed kind of open up yourself like to your AI agent and let it shop for you, it would know not only these particular things, but it would know your nutrition plan, your training plan, your next marathon that you want to attend, like where is it going to be, and so on. And based on that, it might not even give you the shoe. It might give you an entire package of services. Like maybe kind of like
Yeah.
you have a recurring kind of like nutrition, for instance, supplements kind of like arriving, as well as the training plan or a community to work out with, kind of like for running.
Very cool. Yeah, so I mean, how I've been thinking about hyper personalization as a, as brand
Yep.
experience creator, I've been also thinking about like you might be able to even, tailor the content to the specific user. Oh, we know that Konstantin likes running on the beach, so that it will provide, the lookbook information, all the lookbook content, and content is really like centered on,
Mhm.
shoes on the beach. I'm painting a very literal picture here, but do you think that there is any, so the debate I've been having with that with other people is that, is there a business case there? Do we
Mhm.
have any confidence in that hyper personalized, tone of voice content, image content, video content, particular to the what we know about the user? Do we have any, has there been any examples of that, or do you think that there's that brands could have any confidence that that would be good for
Mhm.
business?
Listen, that's an amazing question, and for me, the matter is not even if there is a business case. It's more of like when is that going to be rolled out
Yeah.
en masse, and this is already happening right now, and it's been happening for a while. It's just that it was not hyper personalized. Brands would put their customers into cohorts, develop persona, kind of like, and serve particular content for one persona versus another, for instance. But it was, let's put it this way, mechanical, right? You identify this cohort, you hope this is exactly them, but you still generalize, and somebody responds better to video, somebody responds better kind of like to the wall of text, and somebody kind of like would respond better kind of like to chatting to a shopping assistant, like live one or not. Right now, with Gen AI, the nature of it, that it can generate stuff on the fly specifically for you. So like to what you were saying, this
Yeah.
is like if I respond much better to something like that is happening in my environment, or most likely as well with the engagement of my friends or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh
use
yeah,
an
or like
example.
the models in a try room, when the virtual try on problem, right? So
Yeah,
if you already know my body type, and you make sure that all the product information is put on a model that is my measurements, yeah, I think we could also increase the confidence that it is likelier to convert.
that's an amazing example. And this is exactly where it's also useful. Why? Because size and fit is one of the most notorious impediments that internet has
Yeah.
never been able to solve just yet. Like the real store experience, for instance, and the feel always beats the virtual one. But we've been trying for quite a while, and with the computer vision combined with the Gen AI, this is exactly where there will be a massive unlock.
Yes, I totally agree. Um, so that's kind of like hyper personalization where towards human users, but you're also right about the rise of AI agents, shopping agents, and users agents that will go out on the behalf of the user, um, um, to act, visit websites, apps, e-commerce platforms, and do things on their users' behalf, so to speak. What You write a lot about the UX and product design implications of that. Can you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that?
So to start from, I'm pretty sure that everybody already knows what agents are, kind of like, and how it came to be, kind of like, but not everybody has a proper experience of utilizing them just yet. You know, so for me, I had this, memory of AnyWeb on South by Southwest, like the futurist, giving an example of what actually the agents are going to be. So currently, LLMs, large language models, is like, imagine a genius sitting in the room without the windows and only the door, and you were sliding that genius, like your request on a piece of paper under the door. Like then she looks at it, like figuring out like what she can do about that, and slides something back to you. So with the agents, we're stepping in much more into the LAMs, large action models. And this is, imagine that genius like stepping out of that room. There are no more restrictions. She can perceive the world, see things, or not only see kind of like whatever available data inputs kind of like are over there, like would be the source of the information for the agent, and can act on your behalf, depending on what it is. So to give a couple of examples over here, the prominent ones, while OpenAI with ChatGPT, they released earlier this year the operator, but that's the computer using agent. So it browses stuff and it can book you, I don't know, a hotel, can fill in the tax form or go shopping for you, but like it's purely focusing on the web, right? What's
Yeah,
more
and it,
exciting,
it and it's
yeah,
it's basically mimicking a human user, right? It goes out and looks at the page and then clicks it around, simulating mouse clicks or navigating
yeah.
with keyboard and typing in things.
Hence, yeah, it's a really good thing to mention. Like, hence, a computer using agent. So for now, it's like we got the faster horses. You don't need to do that, but because we don't have yet the built trust, for instance, kind of like, and the adoption kind of like is going much slower. We need to go through that stuff to allow the agent to do it for you, but you're still there present as an observer. And the most sensitive moments as well is like human in the loop design. It gives the control back to you. Hey, is that the thing that you actually wanted to purchase? Like, oh, like, or the payment information, like, please fill it in. But quite soon, I think convenience is going to win over, and we will be
Yeah.
kind of like quite happily kind of giving that control away.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching, I think it was at South by Southwest. There was the CEO of Signal talking about
Mhm.
super smart woman. I'm blanking on the name. Um, but she was talking about kind of like that this way of like computer using agents
Mhm.
is like a privacy nightmare because they need to look at things, process that information. You know, they look at the phone numbers, addresses of all your
Yeah.
friends, credit card information, bank details, bank accounts, then sends that over to Silicon Valley for processing and then return and do the actions.
Mhm.
So I think my sense is that there will be a pretty big barrier of adoption there because of privacy concerns. But I think to your point, convenience will eventually win, and I think there's conversation that OpenAI is in touch with Shopify, and if they would plug
Yeah.
in the APIs directly, so they can transfer anonymous information, but you still have user data, I think then we're gonna see a much faster adoption of these things.
And I like that we're still at the moment when the future is not defined yet. You know, it can go in multiple different directions. And for me, the interesting happening was that last month, I guess, Visa and Mastercard suddenly showed up on a playground and said, like, "Hey guys, by the way, kind of like we're gonna help out like with the agents, and we're gonna help the agents
Oh wow, I
make
did not know
payments,
that.
for instance." And I was like, I didn't see that coming, right? So like suddenly, like that part, they are now leading the way, and through leading, of course, like because they are already having a massive user base, they're going to be dominating the market. But the other example that I wanted to bring before about the large action models is not only computer using ones, but like Alexa Plus. This is your Amazon agent that is not only focusing on the web, but it's focusing on all your home appliances that are IoT enabled. So you have the door camera, you have the microwave, you have the lock, and this kind of stuff. So based on the need, they can open the door, or they can heat up the pizza, or they can order and reorder the grocery, depending on like what you have in your fridge. So tying it into a more interesting topic is that with these large action models being able to perceive information, they will eventually kind of penetrate the data even without your consent. So to give you an example, last week Meta announced the glasses, right? The
Oh
Oakley
yeah,
glasses.
the Oakley glasses. Yes.
This time they're playing it for, hey, kind of like that's going to help you exercise better, kind of like be healthier, and in general, kind of sitting with that factor. But what they're asking in return is that they're always on, and you're
Yes.
broadcasting basically to the AI everything that you see. So if before with the internet, the AI models were trained on the textual data, images, videos, and this kind of stuff, here Meta is going to be training its own AI on the real world live data inputs that
Yeah.
you actually kind of like willingly as well let it consume.
Yeah. So it's basically surveillance packaged up as fashionable accessory.
I
Am I
mean, if you
being
wouldn't know what
harsh?
Facebook is or Meta is, I would be more optimistic. But we've been there. We know what is going to happen to our data. It's going to be monetized. I don't have any, hopes for that part. But it's still a pretty smart move. How can you, at
Absolutely, 100%.
scale, acquire a source of so much information?
So where do you see? So you mentioned Alexa Plus, which makes total sense because I mean that's within Amazon's ecosystem, so they already have your consent to all information, and it feels like a short step for them to just go out and take action on behalf. Like, oh, it was 30 days since the dog food order was
Yeah.
made, so I'm just going to go out and do that for them. But I mean that you already have those subscription type services, but I think those things will go and be much more dynamic now.
So it's going to be automated, and this is where I'm talking about convenience. For the first couple of times, for the first maybe couple of months, I don't think it's going to even take years. For people to try out, we will need to have that AI kind of like holding you by your hand and saying like, hey, this is exactly what I'm doing. But as soon as it's going to hit mass adoption, kind of like we will give it away and just say, hey, kind of like I want my cats fed, and I have the automatic feeder. Kind of like, so whenever like the food goes to a lower levels, like reorder automatically, and this is even right now kind of like detailed request, precision request.
Yeah.
Quite soon, I guess, like we will be less in control, like willingly, just saying like, hey, make what needs to be done, or do what needs to be done.
Yes. So for designing these type of experiences, do you have any best practices or advice for people that are about to design interfaces and systems that should work equally as good for humans as in AIs?
Yeah. Listen, it's a really big topic, and frankly, I will share a couple
We got plenty of time.
thoughts. Yeah, but on the other hand, as well, nobody is an expert yet. So this is what I love about the time we live in. We're just emerging with that, and through trial and error, we're gonna get there. But there are some kind of fundamentals. So while the agent is still there and the human is still there, the main advice is analyze at what points and what touch points exactly you're gonna hit one or another, and design for the dual interactions. Meaning we still need to sustain good user experience for the real human being, clicking through, tapping through, scrolling through, but as well we need to prepare ourselves that it might be that part of your traffic actually is the agent, and with the agent as well. Therefore, what does it mean designing for dual interactions? Agent doesn't see pages or apps or interfaces like humans do. They actually read and rely on the DOM structure, for instance, and therefore what is going to be emerging is agent responsive design. But once again, you can make a decision, is that the time for us to engage in this approach, or is it better to wait until we completely eliminate the need for the interfaces? And another part is then human in the loop design, what I mentioned already. This is the part where at the most sensitive moments, we give human control back. And this is about building the trust, having the oversight, and making sure, for instance, that you're completely in the know of what's being done over there. Maybe last but not least to mention over here is that avoiding the AI pitfalls, because they don't see the interfaces, but they need to make a decision as well on when to and how to engage with that, and what particular product to show to you. They will be making choices towards the products and services that work faster, that deliver much more transparent information, that give you complete and full control. So first, to give you an example, if you have infinite scroll, you're going to be deprioritized. It's bad. If you have models or pop-ups, this is going to be standing in the way of that AI agent to giving the result back to me as a customer. So therefore, instead of jumping through the hoops and loops that real users would do right now, and even those are abandoning the websites, AI agents won't do that. So we really need to make sure as well that we build the products with that in mind. And eventually, yeah, go ahead.
I can see you now, but I'm going to join the other room. Why is I was curious what you said about infinite scroll. Why would it not pick up? Is the alternative that we will go back to good old-fashioned pagination?
So frankly, this is about the page performance, for instance, and this is about the interaction models that are going to be easier and simpler for AI to consume. So infinite scroll doesn't bring them anywhere. They can much better indeed, as you say, scan all the pages, but in reality, that's yet again, that's a step in between. The next step would be AI agent doesn't go to the website for you. AI agent just taps into the raw data that we prepared for them through whatever means you want, and gets the right information like without clicking, without tapping, without going between the pages and so on, because they don't need it. Graphical user interfaces were created for us to interact with the computer systems. So therefore, it's actually going to be a thing of the past, and that's going to be happening. And this is what's happening kind of like already right now, with brands figuring out kind of like how can they be and what can they provide much faster to AI. A good example of that, I don't know if you visited Google recently. It doesn't, yeah, it still gives you the pages, right?
Yeah.
But it gives you the answer in the summary right there at the very
Yeah,
top.
yeah. I've used it for a long time, and I think since they rolled it out, I'm noticing that I'm probably reduced my click-through rate to pages with 80-90%. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a news headline about that was publications like Huffington Post and Business Insider has already seen 40 to 60% reduction in organic traffic because since Google rolled out the AI overviews, and also, of course, that ChatGPT now can browse the web and handle those things. And I think that is something that many companies are grappling on. And I think we also have that. We get clients coming to us and asking us like, "Hey, why is our traffic down?"
Yeah.
And it's not something that's is about to happen. It's happening right now. So I think, how do I mean, you're working for a large company that, sure, rely to a significant part to some organic traffic. How do you guys think about that?
So I'm not in a position to share the exact development,
No,
but
of course.
let me share something like more overarching. The main two, three things that we already landed on is, one, we need to have AI literacy in place, and therefore, like, we need to upskill our people and ourselves to be able to make decisions when we're presented with the right questions. For instance, and the question is like, hey, how is it going to affect our tomorrow? How is it going to affect the customer shopping habits and behavior? How is it going to affect logistics and value chain, for instance, and this kind of stuff? But until we get a better understanding of what we're dealing with, it's very hard to make the calls, right? So the focus here goes on literacy and basically leveling up in terms of the understanding what we're facing. The second part is having the vision in place. And this is a bit more difficult because the main pitfall, what everybody went for, is like, hey, here's AI, let's grab it and apply to whatever problem I have over here. While in reality, what we're trying, and especially like from a design perspective, to look at is, hey, but like, what particular things we're facing over here, like what customer pains, customer gains, or maybe like internal impediments like do we have, what are the highest priority, like what are going to be the highest impact, and can that be solved with the application of AI, but only like as a secondary measure. And I think this is quite important, not to fall for this, hey, like, let's automate, let's become more efficient, for instance. Like there was this memes that the company would spend 4 months, 25 people automating something that actually takes 2 hours to do like per quarter. So it's beautiful, like obsolete.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm just gonna see. We have a bunch of questions. I'm gonna also see if we have got some questions from the audience. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit. You mentioned vision, I think, which is kind of like I think it's important for business leaders right now to have. I think I was this morning in Paris and gave a talk in front of us, a group of business leaders. I'm talking about like what are the leadership characteristics that will endure in kind of the age of generative AI or age of AI agents or AI blank whatever, fill in the blank. So what's, you've been talking about this. So maybe we start there. What's the role for the design leaders? If we start there, what do you see in this post AI or AI era? What's the role of design leaders, and what leadership skills or do you think are important?
So I'm kind of struggling as well to put it kind of back not back into the box, but like just in the box as in just design. It feels that right now we're also on the verge of when the new roles and the new possibilities are going to be available for us. And one of those things is how we change our perspective. And what yesterday was a prerogative of design, for instance, like leader, today suddenly kind of like is available and enabled for engineering or product and so on. So if you don't mind, I would just go for something like more generic. And this is exactly where we have a lot of conversations. And I came across this week a really nice playbook by BCG on how big corporations
Boston Consulting Group, you mean?
Exactly, yeah. Can prepare for the Gen AI era. And a couple of points like really stuck with me. One is like make a business led AI agenda. So from that perspective, once again, like not just applying the tool where it needs to, but like focus on tangible business outcomes and prioritize the value versus experiments or pilots and so on. And here, and this is what's also quite interesting to see the shift, don't centralize everything. Let people, business units, different domains, and so on, experiment and lead, while, of course, your IT and your AI team can scale the foundations, can like bring in the governance and so on. The other advice, and this is absolutely, I think, a must as a leader, to give people time and space to embrace AI in your daily work.
Yeah. We actually over here at Your Majesty, we actually started now on giving people the time and the freedom on 1 day a week to experiment with AI tools, and I mean basically use 20% of your time to become 40, 50, 60, 100% more efficient or productive in an unexpected way. So they get the allocated time for it, and also a budget to buy and try out new tools, so that they can really like sit down and think about this. Because I mean, you and I are in this field, and I'm sure you feel as overwhelmed as me at times, because it feels like just when I figure something out, oh, now I know how to prompt, then someone cracks a new way. So it's like it's moving really fast. So I think it's important that leaders, if you want this to be adapted and adopted in your organization, you need to create space for that.
Talking about that, as leaders, we're quite often presented with not the most comfortable questions. And what we're talking over here is how actually we as leaders anticipate the impact on our workforce, on people, on not only on business and companies, how the roles will change or shift, what is still going to exist, like what is going to change. And then therefore, like how can we come across and how can we upskill accordingly as well. And maybe right now, what I notice as well, that a lot of people are trying to put it away, put it aside, hey, it's just going to naturally happen, or I will tackle it later. But in reality, I would advise maybe already stepping into it and mapping which functions, which parts of your jobs are going to be automated, and which ones are going to be redefined, as well. Having that understanding and not shying away from that, probably going to be much more appreciated by the people that you lead than just like trying to protect them from AI.
So you mean that you also give them some ownership of dictating what parts of their job would be that, or maybe I misunderstood?
No, it's a good correction. I would say. I don't think that any leader has an ability to define it themselves. So of course you need experts, And this is exactly where people looking at what they do and analyzing it like would help map it and would help analyze kind of actually like what's going to be changing. But the first step still needs to happen before. They need to have a good base. They need to go through, hey, let's start with prompt engineering, but let's also understand like what LLMs are, like how they work, what is multimodal, what is single modal, kind of like how are we working with the agents, kind of like how are we working with multi-agent systems, kind of like what is going to be the just to give them the base to then reflect on, hey, kind of like what am I doing? Like, do I need to optimize this workflow, or maybe there is a completely different way to do it?
Yeah. So we're going to move on a little bit. Just, man, it feels like we could talk about this forever, but we have a script, so I'm going to steer us back. So which tech trends, you also write about that, the tech, because, agentic AI and hyperprocessing is part of it, but which other tech trends is it that you're seeing defining the future of UX, and what challenges currently stand in their way?
That's an interesting one as well, and without wearing a hat of the mad scientist, like still going to be difficult to discuss.
Like that hand. You're free to be as mad as you want.
Let's go for it then. Yeah, biotech, personal medicine, quantum computing, robotics. Robotics is actually not that mad, and I think this is going to be hitting us like way faster. And in reality as well, I bet and I hope that it's going to happen much faster, like in general, like the hybrid experiences. So we were talking plenty before about AR and VR, but right now it's going to be happening. And especially like the biggest leap that I anticipate is going to come from BCI, so brain-computer interfaces, that are going to completely revolutionize the way we interact with the systems, like, or with the world as well.
So how? I mean, Elon says that we're there, right around the corner. Do you think? Do you believe that? Do you think like? And do you? What's the hurdle standing in between?
No, that's a good one. Elon says a lot of things, and he needs to make sure that the Neuralink is sold. And but are we there? Not yet. Are there pilots and different kind of like experiences? Like, yes, for sure. So the main thing about the Neuralink is that it's intrusive, it's invasive. So you need to have basically a device attached to
implanted in your brain. Yeah.
So receiver and then the transmitter, kind of like, and this whole story. There are like not only Neuralink, like there are plenty of developments of such kind are happening, but when it comes to a human body, kind of like it has a much higher threshold for you to go for that. That's basically an implant. And how do you know that the one that you install today is actually going to serve you until the end of your days? So ideally, the breakthrough is going to happen when we will have non-invasive brain-computer interfaces. Yeah. So like devices that can be like headsets, kind of like, or something like that is much more human-friendly. And yeah.
And I mean, it's not that far-fetched to see that that's going to be how we might end up. I mean, there is companies already that are using pattern recognition and AI models to decode animal speech, for instance. And if you can decode animal speech, you could probably decode brainwaves soon. So having some sensor that measures brain activity and being able to translate that into different actions or handle less input-output does not feel very far-fetched, and I would much rather wear a cap that's hooked up to my BCI rather than having holes drilled in my head.
Agreed there, yeah. Though I would say if there would be proper implants available, I would go for it. A RoboHand or an eye or something like that. Yeah, for sure. I would be the first one to adopt and try. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I would be curious for sure. So the production team says that we have a bunch of viewer questions. That's awesome. Thanks for sending in your questions, everyone. So
let's go into those. First question is from Katie. She writes, can we anticipate a future where eventually branded experiences / branded UI will become obsolete if these machines don't need to see a brand's visual identity to execute functions like this for people? Web experiences becoming more like content databases for AI agents? That's an awesome question. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, amazing question. I wish I had an answer, but we can chat about that. And George is like, please jump in as well, because yeah.
So I think I have a take on this. I was chatting, like this morning, we talked because anecdote, my dryer broke down. Our dryer broke down for a while ago. And then my wife went out to look for a new one. And it was the first time she used ChatGPT to do the research, the finding the type of dryer she wanted. She wanted to have like a specific, below a specific noise level. So basically, the ChatGPT went out, served up 10, and then compare them, contrast them with price, and those kind of things, and then eventually serve up the buy now link. And the only thing that she did was to go to the PDP page of the website that was selling it and made the purchase. Super exciting. And, it was like she got a personalized shopping assistant that just talked through the whole experience. There was no branding from a bol.com or a Decathlon or whatever it could be in between. It was like unbiased a product recommendation. And I think there, as someone who designs brand experiences, that feels like I got sidestepped because they didn't see my beautiful landing page, or they didn't go through my super slick PDP that has all these transitions and those kind of things. And I think a significant part of traffic will come to there. But I think the opportunity for people in branding and expression and UI, and I think that will come through other things that you will tell brand stories. How does, outside of website, how does the brand come to life? How do you show up for the first time? How do you make a good first impression wherever that the view might come from, if it's on social media or on TV or a billboard in the real world? I think actually outside billboard, real world branding, we're going to see more of. I think we're going to see more of brand activations in the physical space that that capture someone's attention in the real world, and that's where you start building an experience. And then I think it's going to be important for all the digital touch points to speak in that language. Like using Decathlon as an example, but like if Decathlon was a person, how would it speak like? How would it look like? How would it move? How would it greet its visitors to the store? I think we're going to have all these it's almost become like the era of branded agents, which is almost like a amplification of brand ambassador. Like George Clooney is the brand ambassador for Nespresso, but what is the branded agent of Nespresso? Is that George Clooney's voice? Do they buy his likeness and his voice and his mannerisms? I think that's going to be a wild and new exciting opportunity for a lot of companies. Next question does not say who it comes from, but how does AI impact accessibility for people, particularly in e-commerce and online purchases? For example, for users with impaired vision. Are there relevant use cases, or do you think we're going to have to stick with the classic accessibility plugin approach? Issue might be how much AI does for accessibility cost.
Frankly, this one is actually much easier, because if anything, in the current state, the AI with the interfaces like that we chat to, or speak to, this is already a massive leap to become like more accessible. Why? Because graphical user interface requires from you, first of all, an understanding. Second of all, as well, like means of interacting with that. Like doesn't matter if it's a trackpad or a hand, like seeing the interface and so on. While GenAI is just basically eliminating that because you are interacting with it like in a much more natural way. So you can type, and of course, like it's an acquired skill, but pretty much like every human being like knows how to speak. So you can do that, or you can speak to it indeed. With the large action models, with the computer vision, this is my favorite part, and this is not yet fully enabled in Europe, but it's coming. I was trying like 2 weeks ago when I was in London. You can just show it the stuff. Even already, kind of like right now, you can upload photos kind of like to ChatGPT, kind of, but in the US and so on, you can just point at stuff and say, hey, kind of like what it is even, or tell me kind of like how does it work, or tell me kind of like what's wrong with that and so on. So from that perspective, it is a massive enabler.
Yeah.
And this is going to tailor like to different things. Like you have a speech or vision impairment or some kind of like other disabilities, kind of like, and there would be ways, of course, like to overtake it, unless, of course, not unless, but BCI is going to be the next leap, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And, you know, I mean, we already have, I already use like style transfer for things that you know, I don't want to read large reports like I went through the McKinsey AI report, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's like 50 pages. I'm not going to read through this. So then I put it in Notebook LM. It generates the podcast episode, and I write, so like, okay, go through all of this information, serve me the bits that's relevant for businesses like mine. And, you know, it will transform that into a conversation with lovely hosts, and they will talk to. And I think it's easy to draw that parallel to the accessibility world, like, you know, because it will be able to speak to the user in the way that the user best takes in information. I think last question we will have time for. This comes from Mihaela. Do you think that there will be analog design and AI design and options for users to choose which level of AI they are comfortable with? Difficult question.
Yeah. Let me unpack it from the last sentiment, the choice. We as designers and as leaders and as engineers and as entrepreneurs as well, this is on us. It is about ethics, and it is about like what we and how we will shape this world. And I would say that yes, we should absolutely focus on that and not give it away. And it doesn't matter like if it's the interface or the next big thing that is already arriving over here is the deep fakes. So it is on us to demand from the countries like the regulations for like to be in place, and ourselves as well not to fall for it, so that we could clearly see what is AI generated, what is AI tweaked versus for instance like the original content. Is it going to be the same for the interfaces? I can't tell, because this is as well on the side of like who owns the interface, the brand, and it's for them to make that decision. But most likely what you can do, and you will be able to do, is you can still ask your ChatGPT, Gemini, or Grok to give you information in whatever way you want. And you can just ask it, hey, give it to me as a classical website that I'm used to. I know all the conventions and so on. If you have a nostalgic feeling for browsing the websites, for instance, instead of just getting directly to the answer that you're looking for.
Very cool, Konstantin. That's already 1 hour, and during that hour, I even transported like a couple of kilometers in a taxi. Hopefully, there was not too much to ask from you, everybody who tuned in. It's time to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Konstantin. This was awesome. I think we're gonna have to bring you back to talk about this again. Maybe that time we can do it both in the car. So it's like, you know, it's like a carpool karaoke, but
in self-driving ones.
Yes, let's do that. So Thanks to you, Konstantin, and thanks to everybody here who tuned in and listened with us, and for all your smart questions. Before we let you go, I want to tell you about our own AI report that you should be downloading. It's available at infinem.com/delivered, and also take our AI assessment. It's a free assessment where you can see your AI readiness. I think the production team will link out the link to you in the chat. And as I mentioned, the AI report is available on infinem.com/delivered. If you're interested to learn more about how Infinem and Your Majesty can help you on your AI journey, feel free to reach out. And to stay updated on upcoming events, subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to the podcast, because this is live, but it will go live on the podcast feed very soon. I'm Georgios Athanasiadis. I'm your host, and this has been Delivered. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Konstantin.